Good morning, and happy Tea Time Tuesday. Come on in. Thank you for joining me. Thank you. Come in, and let me know again what you're drinking tea, coffee, water, or whatever your beverage of choice is. Let me know. Let me get my sip before I get things going. All right. So again, my name is Marcella Mullen Williams. I, along with my partner Mark Mullen, are the co-founders of Legacy Builder Group, where we help families achieve financial certainty and create impactful multi-generational legacy wealth. And today, I want to address a financial priority that may not be considered and that you may not be considering. And as you continue to come in and let me know what you're drinking, I want to emphasize that I say a financial priority, but I say that loosely because what we're going to discuss today is a priority in every area of our lives, not just finances. But for the purpose of this conversation, we're going to take the angle of finances. And again, what we're going to talk about also impacts each of our legacy pillars. And if you're used to me and been a part of any of my teachings, you know that when Mark and I talk about legacy pillars, we're talking about finance, family, fitness, and faith. These are the areas that structure our lives and help us really build a strong foundation for building a legacy. And because of this conversation, yes, it impacts our legacy builder, and it really does impact our effectiveness as a legacy builder, which is those who are in this community. We're legacy builders, is what we do here, is what we talk about. So that's why this conversation is so important, and this area that we're not considering. And so, what is it? What is the subject for today? It is actually, I want us to talk about the practice of consideration itself. I want to talk about practicing consideration. And as you continue to come in, uh, I want to really be clear on this word. Consideration means continuous and careful thought. That's just as simple as you can look up the definitions of consideration. And the simplest one is simply continuous and careful thought. Now, consideration is it's just one of these words that I've been reflecting on for months now. Sometimes things come to me or they've been presented to me, brought to my attention, and I just need time to process it. And I've been processing all that consideration means and how it shows up and how it's not showing up in me and through me. And I had to face the reality that I was not as considerate as I wanted to be. And it's something that I've been working on as part of my own personal development. It's something that I'm grateful that certain family members have brought that up to me. And I was willing to face it, as we as legacy builders in this community, we tend to face things that aren't as easy to face, too easy to confront. So it's one of those things that I've been going through. So, but here's the beauty in life. When you're locked into a growth mindset and you're seeking to elevate in a particular area of your life, it has a way of simply showing up. I like to call it like breadcrumbs. These areas that you're seeking, that you're searching to grow in, reveal itself. So I am minding my business, processing, practicing consideration, and I come across this quote randomly. And it said, consideration is the highest form of love. And I'm like, like, that's a strong statement. Consideration, highest form of love. So now I'm processing this quote, a couple days. And I think about all the ways that love shows up and what love truly requires. And then I go into a bit of a deeper dive and I come across this statement. And from this statement, I came across a statement from an author. Her name is Kara J. And this is what really led to the conversation that I want to have with you today. So I want you to stick with me and to see where I'm going with this. But I'm going to read what Kara J wrote about consideration. Let me just pull up here. Okay. So she writes, the highest form of love is consideration. When someone thinks about how things would make you feel, they pays attention to details, holds you in regard when making decisions that could affect you. In any bond, how much they care about you can be found in how much they consider you. So, what I'll do is I'll put this in the group. And I'll leave this as a post in the group just so you can read it for yourself. But there are a few things that stood out to me with this statement that was written here. Again, when someone takes the time to think about the things that matter to you, how it makes you feel, pays attention to the details, hold you in regard when making decisions that can impact you. And again, that last statement, how much they care about you can be found in how much they consider you. Thought, wow, yes, it made so much sense to me. And I'm not asking you to agree with me, agree with the statement, agree that consideration is the highest form of love, but I do want to know your thoughts on it. So let me know in the chat. Is consideration and all that love stands for and means, comes from, is consideration, does that play a huge part in that for you? Let me know in the chat in your thought. And then I'll kind of so I'm going to go into, I want to see what you have in the chat. So go ahead and put it in the chat. But I'm going to go into why I'm bringing up this conversation for Financial Literacy Month, right? So I'm not sure if you realize this, but at the very core of financial planning is consideration. That is at the heart of it. And when it comes to financial planning, there are quite a few things to consider. It's probably why a lot of people are overwhelmed by it all. There's a lot to think about. There's a lot to process. But in the context of consideration in this conversation, there are a lot of things to consider. For Mark and I, a huge part of our role as coaches is to help you consider the aspects of short-term and long-term financial planning that you don't consider and you don't even know to consider. So we have to help you navigate through the things that you don't consider and the things that you don't know to consider. And that's something that we're constantly mindful of. So what I want to be able to go through in this financial process of consideration is a few things. And I'm going to just kind of bring out a few things for you to consider in our time together, for the remainder of this time together. But before I do, hold on. I got some great comments here. Let me check the chat. Francesca, never ever thought about consideration as a form of love. I'm glad you're bringing this up and covering this concept. Thank you, Francesca. I'm glad that resonated with you. A bear, 1 Corinthians 13, love is patient, love is kind, love is self-seeking. Yes, not self-seeking. Sounds about right. Yep. I'm so glad that you brought up 1 Corinthians. I think also Philippians 3. There's another one that also kind of touches on scripturally where that comes from and how consideration could be looked at as a part of love. So thank you. Tamika, I know the reverse to be true for me. I purposely don't give consideration to those I don't love. Very interesting. Don't give consideration to those I don't love. Okay. Now I like that. Thank you for bringing that point of view to that conversation. Okay. So let's look at that. And I'm gonna just drop a couple things for you when it comes to finances and consideration, right? So when when you are a financial planner, when it comes to financial planning and the financial plans that you make and that you have in place and that you're intending to have in place, I want to know, how do you reflect on how you consider others? So, in other words, what financial plans do you have in place or are intending to have in place that reflects how you consider others? And when I say others, I am talking about your interdependent relationships. I'm not talking about just everyone. And let me just put a caveat here. I want you to think about what I just asked. How are you considering others in your financial planning? As a recovering, I always feel the need to put this disclaimer. As a recovering people pleaser, consideration is different than caring constantly, having the thoughts of others bombarding your mind and controlling your actions and your very being. There's a difference between feeling the need to please everyone and do what everyone thinks of you, and versus consideration, meaning careful thought to the decisions, to the way you care about others, to the way you navigate through your relationships. Does that make sense? I want to make sure that we're not confusing consideration with people pleasing. It can be a thin line for some of us, and I want to make sure there's a clear distinction. And I think, and just to touch on this, in my life, I talked about how consideration is something I've been working on. And I think when I became a recovering people pleaser, I went from one end to the other. I went from yes, yes, yes to no, no, no. And I had to find the middle. And that's where I was in consideration, thinking, oh, okay, now I need to carefully bring it back to a place where my intergenerational, interdependent relationships are being considered. So I want to make sure. Can you repeat? Oh, can you repeat? Oh, cut it off of my end. Okay, sorry. Can you repeat it? All right. Sorry. It looks like I got cut off. You wanted me to repeat. Um, what part? I'm not sure exactly what part got cut off or what you wanted to repeat, but I was talking about the distinction between considering others and pleasing, being a people pleaser, feeling the need to constantly please others, and making sure that there's a clear line and there's a healthy difference. Consideration is careful and consistent thought, especially when it comes to your interdependent relationships. People pleasing is the constant need to satisfy other people's desires of you and put other people's um, demands, or the demands that you feel others have on you, first. So there's a clear difference. So I just want to make sure that, I'm not sure if that's the part you wanted me to repeat, but that's a very important distinction. So now that we're clear on the difference between people pleasing and consideration, how are you considering, once again, your interdependent relationships when it comes to your financial planning? And I'm talking about your loved ones, your significant others, your kids, parents, maybe nephew, nieces, and siblings, maybe your close friends, business partners, people that you're connected to on a regular basis, that you depend on them and they depend on you, and it's a healthy relationship. Okay. Do you have a financial system in place that reflects a practice of consideration? All right, that's my question for you. Do you have a practice in place that reflects let's say a financial system in place that reflects a healthy practice of consideration? And so, just so you can understand what I mean, uh, you may think that, oh, yeah, if anything happens to me, I want to leave an inheritance for my family. I want to leave money for my kids, for my loved ones. That's thoughtful and that's nice. But is it consideration? Is it a careful and thoughtful consideration of how those funds can impact them, and how they should be distributed? Maybe you're dealing with individuals who receiving a lump sum could really cause havoc in their life. Maybe they're not the most financially responsible, and now you have to consider how funds are distributed. Maybe you need to set up a trust so you have more clear instructions on incremental distributions of funds versus a lump sum. It can be as simple as considering is updating your beneficiary designations when it comes to your life insurance policy, when it comes to your 401k at work and your investments, your beneficiary designations. Are you considering the various financial strategies and the systems that you have in place that will provide a positive impact for those that you love? And there's so many areas I can go into with that, but I just wanted to give an example. And I want you to think about it and feel free to drop in the chat. If there's a way, if there's something that you've done that put careful thought and consideration for with your loved ones when it comes to your financial planning. And so, yeah, totally. Let me see the comments here. Stacy says totally makes sense. As someone who is also learning how to stop people pleasing, I understand the difference now and what consideration really means. I'm so glad. I'm so glad to hear that, Stacy. Thank you. Sheila, yes, as part of the Flex program, Flex Family, I love it. And creating the family crest and the family bank is the primary purpose of making consideration for my family. Absolutely, Sheila. And she knows us as a part of our family legacy experience. That is what it's all about. It's about consideration. Bear, let me see what you have there, Bear. I guess it's how you balance it all. We have several interdependent people: God, spouse, kids, other family members, nonprofits, beneficiaries, staff, etc. Exactly. Thank you. I mean, the list goes on and it's different for people. Thank you for bringing that up, Bear. All the various interdependent relationships that we have connected to. There's, like I said in the beginning, there's quite a few things to consider. And putting all of considering all of these individuals and the various roles that they play in our lives. And if we choose to create a plan that considers them, it's up to you. What I am doing here is giving you food to chew on, giving you thoughts to think about in areas that maybe you hadn't. Okay, so thank you for bringing that up. The next area, so the first was how you consider others. So what are the financial plans do you have in place or are intending to have in place that reflect how you consider others? The second is how you consider your future self. And I say your future self, not just yourself, but your future self. So today is your future self from yesterday and your future self from the week before. Every next day is one step into our future. So I like to look at this in the senses, is your desire for immediate gratification impeding on your financial well-being for your future self? That's, again, the core financial planning is considering what you are going to need in the future. What is going to bring you peace of mind? That's huge for many of us. So, I've shared that I've had the opportunity of doing values assessment. As a reminder, I'm still offering free values assessment for the month of April, but going through hundreds of values with individuals and security and peace of mind, all of these things are what our future selves desire. Yes, we want this now, but it's really what our future self desires. And immediate gratification is the thing that can rob us from those things. I'm not saying you can't have what you need or want or certain things now. I'm not saying not to enjoy life. But here's the thing, it is our future self that we truly desire to care for at the heart of it. And so many distractions come in life that turn our attention to now versus when. So here's something to consider. As you know, many of you know that I'm also certified in stretch. I'm a certified flexibility coach. So health and nutrition is important to me. It relates to how my body feels. So I'll share that many people don't consider how poor dietary habits have a significant impact on our ability to build legacy wealth. So the decisions that we make on how we eat, what we put in our bodies, can impact how we build, how we operate with our money, impact how we can build. And it could be anything as simple as because of choice. And I'm talking about the choices, not the things that you're born with, medical situations that are out of your control. I'm talking about the choices and decisions that we make, that it can impact our ability to even be able to build a family bank, like we've talked about, in a favorable way, an easy way. You may have to take a harder route. It impedes our ability to work and operate and function in a way that allows us to serve in the way that we're called to serve, and our business and our nonprofits and the things that we can do. If we don't have our health, if our bodies aren't functioning the way they need to be, then we are impacting our future self and our ability to build the legacy wealth that we desire as legacy builders. Okay. So these are the two things to think about: how, how you consider others and how you consider your future self. Really important. And I'll add a third for those who this is for. This may not be for everyone. It's for me and it's for a lot of people. So I'm going to share it. Third, how you consider God and his purpose for your life. That, for me, is number one. And I know for many of us are number one, but that is huge. So, how you consider who you were created to be and living that purpose filled life. That's something to consider in your financial planning. And that ties directly to how your purpose for money itself. We have this conversation. You guys know the money is nothing without a purpose. Money is fleeting without a purpose. It has to be able to serve you. Money is an excellent servant, but a terrible master. Without a purpose, it cannot serve you. So when your purpose for money is connected to a practice of consideration, and this is where I want you to really understand and bring it all together what I'm talking about. When your purpose for money is connected to a practice of consideration, meaning continuous and careful thought, paying attention to details, and a connection to your feelings. Yeah, being in tune with your feelings and the feelings within your interdependent relationships. So, continuous thought, paying attention to detail, and a connection to the feelings of yourself and those around you. When your purpose for money is connected to this practice of consideration, then your ability to make more confident financial decisions increase, which also increases your overall financial well-being. It shows up powerfully in your ability to build meaningful and purposeful legacy wealth. And you will find far more fulfillment in day-to-day life. That's the power of consideration, and why I consider consideration the highest form of love when it comes to financial planning, because it truly is at the core of what we do as legacy builders, or what I do as your financial coach. So there's a repeat. I don't know. That's for sure. What am I repeating, Danny? But hold on, let me check these great comments. Charles, Sir Charles, so great to see you in here. Our health can affect our wealth. Oh, like Sir Charles, perfect timing for that, as you are one of my favorite health gurus. Yes, without good health, we can do nothing. Absolutely. Putting assets in the trust and funding the trust is crucial. Always distinguish. Yes, absolutely, Nancy. That's consideration, actually funding the trust. I see you there. Thank you, Deep. Stacy, I'm learning all of these new steps within the Flex program. Yes, another family legacy experience. Legacy leader. Y'all, like, for those who are in the family legacy experience, you know what I'm talking about. You are practicing consideration with every class and with every assignment, and you're spending the next, 12 months with us, and you've spent 12 months with us, really going through this consideration process. So you guys know, I know my Flex family, and my legacy leaders and legacy builders in this community will continue to grow in this aspect. Thank you so much for these comments. I'm going to go back and look at them because you guys really added some great feedback here. And I want you to continue to think about this concept of consideration. Thank you for all the chat. Thank you for joining me for another Tea Time Tuesday. And remember to always operate with intention as you develop the behavior that will build your legacy. I will see you next Tea Time. Have a great week, everyone.